And we are live. G'day everyone, Mike Jeffrey here, and you are listening to My Creative Journey, Season 3, Episode number 12. There's been a little bit of a hiatus over the past couple of weeks, friends, and I'm sorry that I haven't been around here. There's just been so much stuff going on, and one of those things we're going to talk about in today's podcast, planning my next upcoming camp photography camp, and that has been super exciting. And I've brought on a friend of the show today, Josh Huggett, to come on and talk about the camp. He's coming along to the camp as a guest host, but he's also hosting his own photography workshop at the end of 2025. So we thought we'd use this podcast as an opportunity to talk about how we're planning our own photography in-person workshops and retreats. Now, both of our workshops are multi-day workshops, and there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot that goes into coordinating where everyone needs to be. And I know for Josh as well, he's bringing in actual couples and getting them actually married at his workshop. For me, we're bringing in people to stay for 3 nights, which is going to be super exciting as well. And logistically, just working all of that out has been a little bit of a trouble. And I think that that's one of the things about starting and trying to develop these workshops in the photography industry is that there's no sort of blueprint for the way that they're supposed to be done, which on one hand is a great thing because there's no right or wrong way to do these things. But on the other hand, it kind of can seem to hold you back a little bit when you don't know exactly the right way to do it. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been trying to get sponsors on board for my next camp photography, and very fortunate that I've had Aftershoot come on as a sponsor and also Nikon Australia come on as a sponsor, which is super exciting. But there was no real sort of formula for how to get sponsors on board for an event like this before. I've never hosted an event at this scale. So I wanted to be able to talk to Josh a little bit about it in this episode and sort of bounce ideas back and forth with each other about what he's planning at his workshop, what I'm planning at mine. And hopefully through that, you guys will get a better sense of what goes on behind the scenes. But also if you want to start your own photography camp or workshop, you'll know a little bit better about what's happening and that you don't actually have to have all the answers before you get started. If you are in Australia and you do want to come along to either one of our workshops, my camp photography is happening at the end of July, and applications are currently open at the moment for the next probably 6 or 7 days. So if you want to jump on to the website, I'll make sure it's in the description of this podcast, and you can jump in there and apply to come along and camp for the 3 nights with us. There'll be 10 spots available. So that's super exciting, and I'm excited to be able to plan another camp. But then there will be a few day release tickets as well, 1-day slots for people to come along to the photography style shoot that we're doing on the Saturday at the camp. I know Josh's Wedding Mania is happening in December 2025, and he's already sold 50% of the tickets for that event. So if you want to grab a ticket to that, I'll leave the link down below. Make sure you jump in there pretty quick because it's probably going to be sold out by the end of this month, which is super exciting. And I'm also going along to Josh's Wedding Mania to teach a class. So super exciting that we're both hosting camps and photography workshops in Australia, because I don't think this is a massive industry that we have here. I know it's probably well established in the US, but other parts of the world as well don't really have so many set photography workshops and camps where us creative people can go and hang out and just practice our skills and have a great time together. So I'm super excited to be trying to build this industry up and to be having this conversation with Josh so we can flesh out a few of our ideas. Hopefully you guys can take a lot from this episode and build up a bit of your own inspiration to host your own photography workshop or camp. And if you have any questions, please do let me know. But let's jump into that conversation now with Josh Huggett. Hey Mike. So Josh, tell me, what was Wedding Mania 2024, or what was the original idea for it anyway?
Wedding Mania 2024 was a stupid idea that I had. I remember I was only thinking about this yesterday, so it's actually fresh in my head. I was shooting an engagement party, and I sent a message to there's like an Aftershoot group chat that I'm in with some of the people that I met when I was in Peru, and I remember sending a message being like, instead of doing a styled shoot, because we don't like styled shoots, why don't we make a workshop where we actually do a real wedding? Like, how could we host a workshop with a real wedding? And they all said that you couldn't do it. Like, it doesn't really work. And, how would you get that many photographers to a wedding? And very American about them. And I thought, there has to be fucking something here. Like, there's something to it. And then I did nothing with that information for 3 months, 6 months. I just kind of like left it in the back of my head. And I'm like, I'm sure there's a way that we could maybe do it. Like maybe we could pay for someone's wedding, or maybe somebody would volunteer their wedding, or maybe you could do like a micro wedding. And then I had this idea, and then I sent a voice memo to my friend Adrian. And I was like, Adrian, who, if you've seen my video on Wedding Mania, or if you attended Wedding Mania, was the events coordinator at Beach Road Wines. And she's now currently on maternity leave, being mum, because she was very pregnant at the time. But I sent her a voice memo. I was like, hey, man, I've got this stupid idea. I want to pay for someone's wedding, and I want to make it a workshop. And then she was like, yeah, that's stupid. Let's do it. Come down and get a coffee. And then so I went down to Beach Road Wines, got a coffee with Adrian, and I was like, yeah, I want to get like 40 to 50 photographers together. And she's like, how are you going to have 50 photographers at one wedding? And I was like, yeah, that's a bad idea. Hear me out. We could do 3 weddings. And she's like, that's even more stupid. I love it. So then I called Matty Verco on loudspeaker, and I was like, hey, we've got this idea. We want to give away 3 weddings. And he was like, anything you say, Josh, I'm in. And then here we are. We had a 3-day workshop where we taught people how to take wedding photos. And then on the last day, we all went and did wedding photos, and we gave away 3 weddings. And it was great. You were there.
I was there. It was a great time, but there was like a heap happening. And I feel like that was your whole like personality, is just when other people told you that it wasn't able to happen, you were like, I'm going to make this happen. And then you just added things on and just kept adding things and kept making it harder for yourself.
Yeah, it got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly. Like it went from just being like a small little workshop to a 3-day event. And then like 2 weeks before Mania started, I went to my friend's house and I was like, oh, you go to a lot of conventions and stuff for work. Like he works for a larger company and they go to conventions and they do that sort of stuff. I was like, what would you expect if you were going to like a convention? And he's like, oh, well, you obviously get a goodie bag. And I was like, fuck. I don't have anything. I've got nothing. And take it now. What I think people need to take into consideration is we only charged $500 for entry into this workshop. I put the entire brunt of the cost on myself, and it was like we didn't sell the tickets. I was paying for it regardless. But we still managed to get a mug, a lanyard, pens, stickers. So it was literally the day of the first day of Wedding Mania. I was packing goodie bags that had arrived the day before from Vistaprint, so that everybody had a goodie bag when they turned up, and like added on extra shoots. And then I'd have couples message me and be like, hey, can we come and have one of the free shoots? And I was like, yeah, sure, just come on down. And then it just got bigger and bigger.
And so explain to me what was your initial idea to make this sort of financially viable? Like, I know you've talked about you wanted to get real couples who married, but for those who don't know, like they didn't actually pay to get them married on the day. So you were supporting that. What was the sort of talk when you were originally planning it to actually make it able to work?
I haven't figured out how to make a workshop financially viable yet. I'm working on it. Got some ideas sticking, but so far I'm 4 workshops in, and I haven't made any money yet. So, but like I don't need to make money from education. Making money from education is nice. Like that's a great little incentive. But I'm a wedding photographer. I still shoot 60 plus weddings a year, even with everything else that we do. Like I'm a wedding photographer. I make my money in wedding photography. I pay my bills with wedding photography. I also teach people wedding photography. So making money hasn't ever really been that big of a deal for me out of the workshops. Like the first workshop that we did in Sydney, I lost thousands of dollars because I had to fly my entire family to Sydney, and we charged $50 a ticket to come to the workshop. And then I just put all of that money on the bar tab so that everybody else had a really good time.
And so like for everyone else, like you actually paid for it using the money that people paid to actually attend. And so you didn't like, the idea wasn't for you to just sort of pay for the whole thing, but you were happy just to call it even and to pay for that, for people to get married.
If we didn't sell out, it was still coming out of my bank account. So I put up all the money and then we sell the tickets, hopefully. to pay for it after the fact. So if we sold 6 tickets, then I was still paying for 3 people's weddings regardless. But yeah, ideally the thing was ticket sales help pay for the wedding. So that way the people that attended also feel good because they helped, not only are they learning and getting fed and all this sort of stuff, but they're also just helping people get married that otherwise wouldn't be getting married.
Were you surprised about the amount of people that were actually interested in that event? Did it exceed expectations or did it go below where you thought it would be?
I'm two sides of this. One, I'm ridiculously surprised at how many people actually wanted to get married. I genuinely thought we would offer up 3 weddings. We might get 2 people inquire, and I'd be really pushing to try to get a third person. Like, I was really concerned that we wouldn't actually have anybody want to come on and get married. I was like, this is probably the biggest thing. Like, I've promised 3 weddings, but no one's going to want to actually get married. I had the opposite, like literally the opposite. We had 100 inquiries for people in 24 hours of just like, please, we wanted to get married. We had to cancel it because of COVID. We had kids and now we're never going to be able to afford it. All we want to do is have like a family with the same name. And then it really fucks you up because you're sitting here reading stories of like all these sob stories of people like, we got really sick, or I got injured and now I can't work anymore, or we want to have the same name and like it's never going to be a reality. And, we've been thinking about eloping, but we need a couple, like you just sit there and you're just reading like sad story after sad story after sad story. And you kind of need to like pick like whose dream do you make? I feel like, I know, I don't want to say that I feel like I'm the Make-A-Wish guy, but it felt like I was the Make-A-Wish guy. Sitting there like, whose dream do you make a reality and who do you let get married and who do you not let get married? Like, that sucked. That was a really hard day. I remember sitting here reading those stories being like, how the fuck do I even choose this? Like, how do you even make this a reality, So I put all the names in a hat instead. That was easier.
It's easy to forget how expensive it is though, right? Like for us on our end, we're like, we know what we're charging because we know what we do. But for other people that have expenses, everything's expensive at the moment. Like to think about getting married is a big deal. But I sort of come from that camp as well, where I think it's one of the best things that I ever did. And I don't think about it. Like a lot of people talk about getting married being like a privilege opportunity to be able to get married. I think it's something that we all deserve to be able to do. On the scale, depending on the scale, I think there are some things that are way too extravagant, but everyone should be able to get married at some point. And I think for a lot of people that has become out of like a reach for a fair few people when they're choosing between, do we have kids, do we have a house, or do we get married? And I know a lot of people that have gone down the other of like choosing to have kids and have a house rather than getting married because it is really expensive. And so, I mean, I'm not surprised that you got so many people apply, but then hard for you to have to be the one to try to make that call on who gets to have this day. And how did you feel about the students? How did you feel about applications first and foremost, like interest wise, but then also on the day, what were we hearing from them? Did you think the outcome from their perspective was as good as it was for the people who did get married?
So I think personally the interest was low. I just don't think we marketed it properly. Went back and looked at the website today or yesterday because I'm refixing it for this year. And I don't think we marketed it properly for what you were actually getting. So the interest was actually lower than I was anticipating because, you go to some workshops and it's like $1,500, $2,000 for a day and it's just a style shoot of some models. And ours was like $500 for a 3-day workshop with some of Australia's biggest wedding photography influencers, plus food, plus an actual wedding day, plus 3 shoots, 6 shoots if you include the other couples, plus a party afterwards. I don't think we marketed that properly, which is something that we're going to try to do better this year. But the interest is pretty low. Like there's no industry like this in Australia. This doesn't exist. One, nobody that I can find anywhere on the internet is doing anything like Wedding Mania. Nobody's paying for people to get married so that you can get real weddings in your portfolio. But even then, there's no real proper workshop market in Australia. In America, you can, even some in the UK, like UK, it's kind of up and coming a bit with Andrew. He's doing a great job. But in Australia, it doesn't really exist. There's like the Nikon ones where you go and like you meet up and stuff. Canon doesn't really host anything over here. But there's like, it doesn't really exist. Whereas in America, like people host workshops every single week. Like as soon as it's quiet season, there's at least a workshop or like street walks and all that sort of stuff where you go around and take photos. I don't think it really exists that much here. Maybe Australia is a bit more closed off. Maybe we're all a bit more snobby. But we're trying to, I mean, and you're doing it as well, but like we're trying to build an industry where one doesn't exist. And it did exist before and it just kind of died off. This year, my plan is better website, which is what I'm working on at the moment behind the scenes, so that we can. It'll probably be out by the time this is uploaded. But trying to get better website, better marketing, and a more clear and concise idea of what people are actually getting for their money. Because tickets are going up this year because we're holding it at a bigger venue. I took on other people's advice as well. So after Wedding Mania last year, I did a survey where I sent out a survey to everybody that attended, and I was like, just be as honest as possible because like I need to actually learn. And people like the biggest thing that most people said was that they would pay 4 to 5 times more just to have less people there, and that's. You're like, we had cheaper ticket prices so that we could have more people there. Like with cheaper tickets, we needed to have more people there so that we could cover the costs and not run it at a huge loss. Whereas if we can charge more, we don't need as many people there.
I think had people realize what they're actually going to get from it, I think they would have been a lot more interested to actually come along and be there. I'm glad you brought up price as well, because I think pricing is a hard thing. Like, again, I could talk about it forever. But the price could have actually turned other people away and not thinking that it was, an actual sort of workshop.
And this is the hardest thing is like, I want to help new photographers. I want to help people that are trying to get into wedding photography, that want to become a wedding photographer, or they've just started out and they're not really sure where to go.
I would always argue that education is more valuable than upgrading your gear, especially when you're starting, right? Like, you would have gotten way more. Had you have not been to a wedding before, and I know a lot of the attendees there actually hadn't, they would have got much more out of that than just going to sort of like a styled sort of workshop, because it was very educational, like understanding how a day actually works, being there with other people, but also not having the actual pressure of it being you're the only person there. So it was, I think from a lot of people, they were surprised by how things actually did go on the day. And they were glad to be there and sort of go along with people, as you said, more experienced, who could sort of guide them through what actually happens on a day, but then also sort of bounce ideas off other people that are there as well. Like, you're not the only person, so you could have had a chat with the other person there who's also new and asked them about what their ideas are.
My favorite complaint about Wedding Mania,
please,
I reckon it was brought up 6 times in the survey, was how little food they were fed on the wedding day. And so we made the wedding days real wedding days. You go to the boys getting ready, you go to the girls getting ready, you go to the ceremony, you go to the reception, and then we gave like a big substantial main meal. But that's the job. There's no like, you don't go for a break in between. Like, you were shooting a 10-hour wedding day. That was the thing. Everybody was doing it. This is like a standard. And so many people were like, oh, we could have had more food on the last day. I'm like, how do you, like, it's the real experience. Like, we're giving you an actual wedding photography experience with a safety net, rather than like, it's all clouds and rainbows and like, here's your catered breakfast in the morning, and then go to the boys getting ready, but we'll bring a food truck for you, and then we'll pack you a lunch, and we're going to tap you on the bum as you leave, and here you go, here's your, sit down after the ceremony and have a lunch. Like, these guys even got like a break after the ceremony and stuff, which doesn't normally happen. to go and have a snack and eat and drink and refresh yourselves. But yeah, it was funny how many people were like, oh, we didn't really get to sit down on the wedding day, or like, we didn't really get to eat. I'm like, yeah, that's a wedding day. That's the job. But like, and see, back to pricing, because we'll flip flop because we've both got ADHD, even though you don't want to admit it. This is where I think sponsorships need to come on board. Because if we can get, and this is what we're going to try this year, we're trying really hard to get some sponsors on board. Not really hard. We've sent a few emails. We're trying to get some sponsors on board. And by we, I mean I made a pitch deck and I got my assistant to send out all the emails because I don't do admin. But we're going to get some sponsors on board. So that way, if they can sponsor the event, like companies can come on and sponsor the event because they're going to get fucking heaps good PR. Even like Camp Photography? That's the name, isn't it? Even something like Camp Photography, if somebody like Nikon or the arguably better company Canon comes on, but if they come and sponsor like a Camp Photography, they put in 1,500, $2,000, $3,000 to come and sponsor a Camp Photography, Camp Photography, Mike Jeffrey sponsored by Canon or Hasselblad or whatever. That then means that you can make the barrier of entry lower because a larger chunk of the costs are going to be covered by these companies. They're going to get ridiculously good PR, and they're also going to be able to, like, you see a Nikon coming and sponsoring a Camp Photography and they bring out a representative, or they just send you with a suitcase of gear, here you go, here's a bunch of lenses, let everybody test it when you're doing your astro photos or something. They're going to get so much more marketing power out of that, which is even at $3,000, let's say. For yourself, myself, Antonio, somebody to make a reel on Instagram is like $1,500, $2,000 to make a reel and post it online for a 30-second video being like, I like this camera, it's nice. For $1,000 more, they can get an actual hands-on experience plus be tagged in all of the content after the fact, and that's where we're going to have to try to find a way to perceive this value to the companies as well as, like, because we're just the middlemen here, Michael, yourself and me. We're like and anybody else that does this, like Tash, she does them up in Queensland for baby stuff. So we do, so we're going to have to find a way to give perceived value to the clients and being like, you're actually going to really, really learn from this, but also give perceived value to all of these companies, but like, you'll actually get so much more out of it. And that's what we're trying to do with Mania this year. Because we've got you, me, Tash, and Beck on board. All of us together is a combined 3.2 million followers online. You and me are not as much of that as the girls. But there's like 3.2 million followers that these guys are going to be able to get their content out in front of. So how can we give perceived value of, you're going to get this content online plus the positive PR plus all of this just for the small price of like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000,
Have you thought about what you're offering to brands, especially when I know with your style, you're going down you're actually going to get people like I'm married again. You obviously don't want to turn that into a big ad for them. Like that's still their day. How do you sort of balance those two?
So the way that we're going to try to work this with brands is being that like, so this year, it's probably already going to be live by the time this comes out. So this year is going to be another 3-day wedding, 3-day event. Currently, we're only doing 2 weddings this year. So the first, that we're splitting our group into experienced photographers and new photographers. That was another thing that people got last year, is they'd like the groups to be a little bit more separated. So day 1, experienced photographers. I'm doing all of the weddings this year as well, because that was another one of the bits of feedback, is that the couples wanted me to take their photos and the photographers wanted me to be the photographer educator as well. Like they wanted to come and shoot a wedding with me. So this year I'm just shooting both the weddings.
I was a lot surprised by that. Very surprised that you didn't. I understand why, but I think that was a big bit of feedback I got from a lot of people as well. Like they were expecting it to be you, and then I was just there helping them, but they were really after you. How did that end up? Like, how did you end up not being
It just didn't work feasibly. The day before the weddings, I was still sitting there being like, is there a way that I could possibly go to every single one of these getting ready ceremonies and couple sessions whilst also running because I had to run everything at Beach Road Wines. So it was me, Adrian, and so Matt was doing fucking celebrant stuff. Adrian was doing all of the venue stuff, so like food, making sure that people were moving. She was also 36 weeks pregnant or something. And then I was just there for when shit hit the fan. If anything went wrong. I was also filming all of the ceremonies and just trying to I just went through and made sure that I got like detail photos for the other people and, like a bit of a safety net for, make sure that the vendors that came on actually got some stuff out of it as well. That's another thing I want to do better this year is make sure that the vendors get far more out of it. I'll go into that in a second. But yeah, I just needed to look after everything. And I would have loved to have shot all the weddings, but it wasn't physically possible with the way that it was run, which is why I've changed that this year and I'm shooting all of the weddings because that's my job. I'm a wedding photographer. I'm not an educator. So you guys can run the classes. I'll go and shoot some weddings because that's what I do best. And I teach better hands-on with the camera when we're there. I could sit in the class, and that's why I've kind of like stopped most of my educational stuff online. Because I just teach better in person. I need to be there at a wedding and I can teach you how to do the job better than sitting at a desk being like, now, Nick, when you enter the room, make a joke. Say, how's your morning? That sucks. I just need to be on site. And then because it's all about riffing with the people and building those connections and bringing down barriers. But day one, I'm shooting a wedding with the experienced photographers. If you're an experienced photographer attending this event, you've probably shot a wedding before, or maybe you came to Mania last year, you got a bit of knowledge and you kind of know how to use your camera. We're just going to get you a hands-on wedding experience with your boy. So we do that in the morning. We're going to shoot the first wedding. While we're shooting that wedding, all of the newbie photographers that are like fresh, green, need to learn, they're going to still be at the manor, but they're going to be doing classes all day. So they're going to be doing classes with yourself, with Tash, maybe with Beck on the first day. I haven't figured out the actual roster yet because this is like day 4 of planning. Give me 25 minutes and I can probably make it up in my head. But you guys are going to be doing classes at the manor, teaching people how to run a wedding day, what you're going to do, what to expect, so that then on day 2, we swap. Experienced photographers, you can go to the manor and you can learn from the educators again, and they can teach more like harder stuff. Like, we spoke about it through voice memo, but like on the first day, you probably teach the newbies what to expect on a wedding day, kind of like basic settings. This is how a wedding day runs. Don't get in Josh's way because he'll call you I was going to say the C word. Don't get in Josh's way because he'll tell you where to go. Whereas on the second day, you can teach far more advanced stuff like flashes or whatever. So that way we can tailor the education to the couples. So day 1 and 2, weddings, basic classes. Day 3 is where we're going to open it up. And I'm currently running an idea around in my head where, and I know we've said it in voice memo as well, where we open it up to everybody. So if you can't afford day 1 and day 2 to come and shoot a full wedding day and do those more advanced classes and learn that harder stuff, then maybe you could come to day 3 where we make it a far more educational day. And this is where brands can come on as well. So the way that the manor's set up, it's like a larger room upstairs where we're going. There's a stage and stuff where we're going to be able to sit and talk and actually like host a Q&A panel where I was thinking like we had all the educators in a line and we get some cameras and film it for a podcast episode, and we just do like a large Q&A where we talk anything that they've got that they want to ask. Like it can be about the wedding day that just happened. It can be about marketing. It can be about anything. We have a Q&A panel so people can come and learn from it. And then on the other side, have like tables set up where brands can come and showcase their product, like an Atkins lab, like the print lab in SA. They can come in and showcase their prints and their albums and why you should be going through them. Or a Canon can come and show some new lenses or some new cameras and stuff that are coming so that brands can actually get a hands-on experience with the photographers that are there. And then you can also have like the brands get the opportunity to speak, like depending on their sponsorship level. If they want to do a talk on like this new product they're bringing out, like Aftershoot want to come down and they want to run you through how good Aftershoot is, they could come on as a sponsor, and then they can get a speaking spot and they can run everybody through, and then that gives them the ability to offer discounts and all that sort of stuff as well. So that way people are like learning, people have got hands-on access to like gear and stuff that's not there. So make it actually like the third day more of like a convention, if that makes sense. So we're only looking at having like 15 to 20 photographers for the entire first 2 days of the workshop. So last year we had 60. This year I'm only looking for like 15 to 20 people, because that was one of the things people like, we wanted less people. But I needed to make it accessible to a larger audience because we have a larger audience. So that's what day 3 will be like. There's exclusive for the first 15, 20 people. You can get the full experience, and you get the 2 wedding days and the extra classes and food and all that sort of stuff. And then there's the cheaper day on day 3, which is where it's just all education and that sort of stuff. So I'll bring the photographers with me. Person 1's getting ready. Person 2's getting ready. Ceremony, reception, 10-hour day. It'll be a full Josh Huggett Media 10-hour day.
It's interesting to hear how you're coordinating it versus what I'm trying to do. And I think the sort of way we're going about it, kind of the exact same way, but also tailoring it towards our own personal style. Like I hosted camp photography that you talked about before, hosted that like 2 weeks ago, where we got sort of 10 photographers in to all come and stay for like 2 nights. And we just did a bunch of classes, a bunch of education more so, rather than trying to build portfolio. A heap of people that hadn't sort of worked with other people as like our models before, hadn't worked with other clients before, brought people in to actually, like, these were very new photographers. And so even thinking about expanding on that, I love how like intimate it was, the small group. And I think a lot of people said that was really the best part about it, was having a small group, because they've been to other workshops before. And I know people have definitely been sort of burnt by going to workshops before where they don't get access and don't get to get the things that they actually want out of it, like education wise, but then also opportunity to go in and actually take images. I think that's the best part about what we're trying to do here, is give people hands-on experience, to actually work with people one-on-one, like opportunity to practice those types of things aren't easy to come by in your everyday sort of life. So creating those opportunities, I think, is really good. And having a smaller group sort of facilitates people to be able to go in, feel comfortable to try things. I'm not going into planning a whole wedding day though, because to me that's going to be way too stressful, and I don't know how you're coordinating it again. But I want to give people opportunity to actually practice their photography in an environment where they may not have been before. Like, even if it is just going in with a couple and feeling comfortable to use like flash for the first time, feeling comfortable just to try it out. If that's not something, if you've done a couple of photo shoots before but haven't ever felt comfortable to try flash, here's a good environment where we can actually practice, and there isn't anything at stake here. If it all goes wrong, that's okay. This is a good opportunity to practice in that environment. And so I think that's going to be really good under your stuff for people to learn how you do things. And then also like the way that I'm doing things as well, like bring that smaller group in and sort of balancing, here's how I do things, but I also want you to practice and be a bit comfortable to go in and try, because I know that I hate when workshops are just 15 to 20 people standing around in a group and all aiming a camera at that sort of one person for half an hour, and you're not able to get any individual hands-on practice.
And you can actually like look after them too. Like especially like when you were just saying it with the flash, like if they're wanting to try it for the first time and they don't know what they're doing, with that smaller group, you're actually able to be like, oh, well, actually maybe just change your settings this way or aim it up this way. Whereas if it's a larger group and every single person's asking the same question all the time, you can't, or they're all asking different questions, then you don't actually get that, not one-on-one experience, but a 1-on-10 experience where you've actually got a little bit of time to kind of explain it. And that's what I want to be able to do with weddings this year, is that not only can I show people how we take our photos, because we take our photos exactly the same way at every single wedding. Like, it's a formula. You do the same thing at every wedding. So that way you've got your skeleton, and then you can build on your skeleton. If you see something cool and creative, you can lean into it, but you've always got your backbone.
And you're also coming along to my camp to teach a class. The idea what I'm doing is like I've got 10 people staying for 3 nights. And then I'm, as well as you, like opening up slots on the sort of daytime. Like there's one day there that's a Saturday, we're going to open up extra slots for people just to come for that one day. And that's where we're going to do most of the education stuff on that one day. We're going to split into groups and do a whole, like everyone gets to go to every class, and we're going to do like multiple classes throughout the day. The other 2 days are going to be mostly, interacting with each other, a lot of like building community. We are going to do some other photo shoots as well. There's going to be an astrophotography class. We're going to do portraiture. I'm trying to plan an elopement as well on the first day. So it's kind of a more intimate one where we actually go off site as well to take photos. But then on that, when everyone comes together on that one day, that's when we're going to be doing most of the classes. I haven't asked you yet, but what would you like to sort of teach a class on? If you could teach one class on something to do with wedding photography or anything in your style that you think is unique, what would you teach?
Well, my most unique thing is client interactions and being able to walk into any room and essentially read the room and figure out what we can say, can't say, who's fun, who's not. And that all stems from my 11 years in aged care, where you were just surrounded by people the entire time, and you needed to like make relationships. And I'm pretty sure I spoke about this on the last podcast, but like when I was the first point of call in nursing home. So like somebody would get dropped in a nursing home and they'd send me in, they'd be like, go get the information, find out what games they like. So you're going in completely cold, just like we go in completely cold to a lot of wedding days. And you've got to kind of build that relationship. And then from that into car sales as well, where you're going to do the exact same thing. That's why I was such a good car salesman. It's called, what did I call it? Not relationship hopping, subject hunting is what I call it, where you rattle off a bunch of things really quickly that you're interested in. So like you find someone, you essentially judge a book by their cover. If they look a little bit nerdy, you kind of rattle off a couple of nerdy subjects that you know a little bit about. The key is to know a lot about a little instead of a little about a lot. No, other way around, whatever. A little about a lot instead of a lot about a little. And I know a lot about a lot, I know a little about a lot of things. So you can kind of rattle off like video games to video game people. If they look like car people, you kind of rattle off a little bit about cars. If they look like sporty people, I rattle off that I fucking hate sport. But you find your subject in there, and then you're able to sort of latch on to that. And it's also about reading their body. You could bring up cars, and like I'll bring up because I like cars. I've got cars, and you'll be able to see like if the girl reacts to that. Maybe you bring up a project car that you've got, and she kind of winces or like elbows him a little bit, like see, because that means you can then make the assumption that they've probably got a project car at home that he's not finished yet, or something along those lines, and you'd be like, oh. Like what's going on here? And then you can kind of build on that. And then very, very quickly in the span of like 3 minutes, you've already got a common point of interest that you can build on whilst also continuing your subject hunting, and you spit it out, like spit out little things. Maybe it doesn't land. Maybe you mention video games and you get nothing out of it. Cool. They're not video game people. I'll find something else. And you kind of find that, I don't know. Is that the question? That answers the question.
That answers the question. And I think this is why I'm glad that, I'm glad to bring other people in. Like I love to host workshops and I love to educate, but I always tell people I think there's a big asterisk on everything that I do, is that everything that I educate on is how I do things. And I think that people need to go and like learn from other people. That's why I'm big on education, because you should be going and learning from a heap of different people and learn what works for you. If you just hear from me and you don't think my style works with you, then you're going to forever think that you're behind because you don't do things how I do them. But I'm not, the way I do them isn't the only way to do them. And so I'm glad to bring you in, because you have a very different opposite style to me almost, in that the way that you do things is very different. Provide people that insight that you can do things a bunch of different ways and kind of find what works for you. And so I think that'd be a really helpful class, and like we'll just throw you in.
Yeah, literally just give me a couple and I can pretty much guarantee that we'll be mates by the end of it, and we'll get some great photos.
And then also like I'd love to see other people kind of throw themselves in as well. Like after you've sort of demonstrated how you work with them, then give other people an experience to try as well. And I think that's really cool where they can, who cares if they get things wrong? Who cares if they upset them? It's not their real day. Just throw them in and just see just get that practice because you need that. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know how to do it. It just comes with practice. You've just got to throw yourself in and be okay to not understand everything, to be okay to make yourself look bad. I think most of the time, if you make yourself look bad, the other people aren't going to feel bad about you. Like they're not going to feel uncomfortable. It's just you feeling that way. You've just got to continue to do that.
And for people that don't come to camp photography, being the butt of the joke is the key. You are always the butt of the joke. We never bring down other people. Often you make your self-deprecating humor. If you can bring yourself down a little, not in a like I'm a loser, my photos suck. Like, oh God, I just can't get my settings right. Oh, I'm bad. It's more just like, you make jokes like, yeah, I bought these cars and my wife hates it because now I've filled the car park and like, now I've got to keep all my cars out on the road. Now I've got to walk down the street, like you're the butt of the joke. Like I've got to walk down the street because I bought all these cars, blah, 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 blah. Little things like that, not like self-deprecating humor of like, oh, I'm short, so I'm going to get bad photos of you. Like that's not, nope.
That's not helpful. I really struggle, and I think a lot of people on the other end, to actually take photos for an hour. Like an hour to take photos, I could never come up with an hour worth of photos, and I wouldn't want to drag people through just an hour of continually taking photos. But a lot of people are like, oh, I'd prefer to go to an engagement photo shoot where I have an hour, I've got a bit of time. And again, I think that's a hurdle for people starting educational stuff as well, like thinking that they're not going to have an hour's worth of stuff to talk about. I always overplan and then only ever get to half of the stuff that I ever planned on talking about anyway, because there's so many questions from people and so many opportunities for them to hop in and take photos as well. Like,
I think that's where camp photography is going to be sick because it's like 10 people just like camping and hanging out, and you did all the games and stuff too. So you're actually building a community rather than like class. It's class. Let's hang out around a bonfire. Let's play charades.
Again, that was the big feedback I got, was that on the first one we did, we only stayed for 2 nights, and everyone was like, it was after an extra one. Like we only just felt like we were just there, and then we had to go. And I was like, well, again, this was just like an experiment to kind of see if it would actually work. But really good that we got some really good feedback, and everyone really enjoyed hanging out for like 2 days, that they were all comfortable to stay an extra day. And I think that was a bit of a difference in the way that I did things versus what you did. I actually did applications for those people to come along. And a big part of that was making sure that, yes, they were all at the right experience, but making sure that everyone got a fair go. So it wasn't just the first people who sort of applied were able to get in. Like there was an open application slot, and then we closed it, and then we actually gave out invites to people from the applications based on their experience, where they were, what we thought they would actually get out of it. And trying to build a good community of people where there wasn't someone who was just miles ahead who would bring the rest of the group down to feeling like they weren't up to a certain standard.
Were you surprised with how many applications you got for a camping workshop?
I was, yeah. Very surprised, yeah. I was only open for 3 days, and I had to close it. So I didn't initially have a closing end date. I just opened them, and I thought, I'll have a look in a few days' time to see how many we get, because I didn't know. And after 3 days, I closed it because I had like 40 applications, and I'd only had like 10 spots. And I was like, well, look, I don't need to leave this open forever. Like, it's only going to get harder now to just decide who to get. And I had some really good applications, and I was really surprised by the amount of people in those 3 days that really wanted to come. Having only planned that sort of 2.5 months out, like again, they had to be free on that weekend. That was another consideration. I did it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I didn't know whether people would have other like work commitments, other commitments outside of that, but everyone who was applying were that sort of early, just starting kind of photographer where they didn't have huge commitments at that stage. And so again, that's what I'm doing.
I remember sending you an angry voice memo because I couldn't come.
You had something on, yeah. And I got a lot of those as well. So like a lot of people, again, were like excluded. But that's why the next one I've got is at the end of July. Again, we're doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think that works best because it's in the off season again. It's going to be off season again. We're not going to get the best sort of portfolio. It's not going to be the best sort of days. It'll probably be freezing. But it's a good time when people don't have a lot of work on, so we can sort of come together for a few days and they're comfortable to take that sort of time off.
What did you use to host your application process? Did you you with Squarespace?
I just put an inquiry form, on the website. Yeah.
So you had a separate one and then you went through from there.
Yeah. So
what was your onboarding process to bring people on? Like, so you had people apply, because this is where we're at now. And this, like, I'm presuming the people that are listening to this podcast today are interested in probably making their own workshop. Maybe. Like, that's probably the premise of this. And that's where we need to get better this year, is that, like, I had a contact form on my website, and then it kind of, like, because we get 100 wedding leads a week, or as it is. So then I had wedding leads, Wedding Mania leads, people wanting to get married leads, all in the one spot. So I'm thinking maybe we need to separate it and keep it completely different.
so I've got a completely separate website for all that. So all my education stuff's on a different website.
I tried making one on Squarespace, but I fucking hated it. It sucked.
Yeah, I've got one on
It's too
Squarespace.
rigid.
It is a bit rigid, but again, it's easy to throw something up easily.
Well, see, that's what I was trying to do, but I couldn't get it to. I'm on Show It. I've been on Show It for many years.
I have my other website on there too. Yeah,
because I can just completely customize everything. And I was like, I'll get fucking Squarespace AI, make me a website, and that way I'll be able to, because, like, you can do ticket sales and everything on Squarespace. You can do everything on Squarespace. And I was like, that'll be sick. And it was so hard. They made it so difficult that I ended up just building a brand new page on Show It in a day to just get it all done, because I could just move things around.
I think there's probably an element of that that's your own, like, having to have it all the exact way that you're after it. And I think sometimes having more control is a downside, because you spend a lot longer on it, making it sort of perfect. But to other people, as long as I've got all the information there, and I never had anyone ask anything about, like, anything extra, just making sure I had enough stuff on there to explain it all. And that's what I'm just kind of duplicating the one I had from last time again, and just updating information.
That's what I'm trying to do. That's why I was going to make a new website. I was like, I'll make a new website for the workshop, So what was your onboarding process? What did you think about with, like, information? Did you make videos? See, I'm a video guy. So, like, I could sit there and try to write an email telling you what you need to bring, but I'd rather just make a 7-minute video that you could watch at your own leisure.
Yeah. So my onboarding, I did a video and I had them in a group. We did a Facebook group to start with, and then an Instagram chat towards the end, just to put everyone in, just so we could tag people on Instagram and easily everyone had everyone's information. And we used basically the Instagram chat for the weekend while we were there, because there were stages where we weren't all together, and we did go off site and come back when we went out to go take photos, and came back and we drove different cars. We had a bus as well, so coordinating where everyone was going to be. But in that onboarding, it was just the application process, and I asked everything in the application. And so I didn't have to go back to them again once they were accepted. And again, it's only like 10. I only had like 10 people. So emails were fairly easy to send out to 10 people, add them in a Facebook group. All the information was in there. And again, we had people flying in. I was coordinating. So I did a bus as well, coordinating where I was going to collect people with the bus, and then having them back, like, dropped off at the airport again after it was all over. So all of that was done through there. I didn't think there was a lot of coordination involved, like, really, because I didn't bring in anyone else, because that was just very, very bare bones. Like, it was just me, a couple of couples that we brought in to take photos of, and then just all the students as well. Like, we didn't do hair and makeup. We didn't do anything else. There wasn't anything else. It was just practice. Like, make sure you bring all your gear, of course, and things to stay for a few nights. But apart from that, we're just practicing photography, practicing skills. We're not trying to get really good portfolio. This is a chance for you to practice. So again, that removed, I think, a lot of the barriers that are probably going to come up the next time around when we are coordinating with a bunch of other people, and there are specific classes that they need to choose which ones they're going to go to. Or again, the whole idea of having people stay for 3 days, or you can just come for the A time, adds an extra sort of layer, adds an extra layer on top that I feel a lot more comfortable with now that I've already done that first bit and that's out of the way. So everything else just runs exactly the same as it did, but then I'm now sort of focusing on that with sort of 1 day kind of making that the best experience that I possibly can for everyone.
So what next for you? So camp photography starting. You're about to launch the next one. What are you doing different this year? So this year you're opening it up during the day, but what did you learn from the last one that you're implementing in this one to make it better or worse, if you want to make it worse?
I think a lot of things that I'm implementing a lot more space, so a lot more like downtime, because I think that was a big thing. The last one was Friday afternoon to sort of Sunday morning. We all got there like 4 o'clock on the Friday. We went straight into doing photos as an icebreaker, straight in, like just go take photos outside. And then we all ate, and then we all hung out and played some games. And then on this Saturday was a huge day where we did like a hike in the morning. We came back, we went into going take photos. We did a class, then we did another photo shoot, then an extra photo shoot. Then we ate, and then we did another photo shoot, just all back to back. We didn't have any breaks really throughout that whole day. And I think there was a big emphasis on like, I would have really loved to stay another day, but just spread a few of those things out. Just give us a bit of a break in between. The other thing I was surprised about is interest in actually doing more wedding style photo shoots. Because that was a big thing. I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I want to practice skills, but again, it wasn't heavy on portfolio, so it didn't really. It wasn't sort of crucial who we took photos of. It was more about practice. But I think there was that skew towards. I've never done wedding photography before. I didn't realize that it would actually be interesting, and I would enjoy taking photos of other people. It would be great to get more people in like that to actually try it a bit more. And so I think that's for me. The next time is like, well, still targeting those same sort of people, maybe people that have never done a wedding before, or people that have done a few but want to sort of build on understanding and build portfolio, whatever the case may be. But sort of plan that whole day to be like, I'm going to bring in 3 different couples on that day, all in their like wedding outfits, so we can take photos of them, so we can actually try and see what that looks like and see how to coordinate with hair and makeup when we've got other vendors involved and see what that actually looks like. I'm hosting the next one at a wedding venue, so it's all inclusive. So everyone who's staying can stay on site, but then the people that do come on for the day as well, you're going to get experience at an actual venue where images could be used in portfolio. Like, yes, it's practice, but if you're up to the standard of you don't need the practice anymore and you just want portfolio, well, you'll be able to get really good portfolio from it. So I think that's the expansion that I'm hoping to get. So on that day, it's going to be pretty hectic, but the other 2 days around for everyone staying, I think allowing more space to build stronger connection in that community, I think over 3 days, I think is going to be really good to see where we're at, at the end of the 3rd day, whether anyone would stay for an extra day, because that could be the next expansion. You never know.
Do you find, and I'm just thinking about this on the fly while you're talking, do you find that you jam pack so much into the day because your imposter syndrome's kicking in and you're like, well, these people are paying to come here. We need to give them as much education and everything as possible. I was just thinking back then to like Mania, and I was like, well, that's why we put so much stuff into it. It's like, who the fuck am I to teach these people? Let's just give them as much as physically possible. And it sounds like that's what happened on the first day of camp photography as well. It was like, oh, wow, these guys are coming camping for a photography workshop. We need to just be doing photography. We need a photography everything as much as physically possible from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep. Maybe we'll stop for a sausage. But other than that, we're just doing photography. When in reality, people are kind of just like, maybe not wanting all of that. Is that, and maybe people want this like more relaxed downtimey. I don't know. This is really just off the top of my head. As you said that, I was like, fuck, I did the exact same thing.
Absolutely. I was trying to fill all the space that I possibly could because people are spending to be there. And again, I didn't earn anything off this, right? That was a break even, how much I charged just to break even for people to stay for 2 nights. Like I charged like $650 for people to stay for 2 nights and all like meals included. Like we didn't earn anything from this, but I was still like, I've got to give people as much value as possible. As you said in the beginning, like I'm trying to build something here. I want people to have a good experience so they come back again. And I think as a result, probably overdid it to the point where people were doing too much. I don't think I was surprised that people loved going out and taking photos all day. Like that's all they wanted to really sort of talk about. Like everyone there was a photographer, all just starting. They loved photography. They obviously didn't have any friends they could talk about photography with, and just wanted to talk photography. That was really cool. So we could have done that all day. It was more the moving on between different things, I think, went too quickly. Like I had an hour planned for this photo shoot, and then we're on to the next photo shoot. Whereas I think if we had an hour and a half, 2 hours, just to extend it out, just for people to practice more, just to feel comfortable, to get into routine, just walk around taking photos. Like we did, there was a space on the Friday night after we did the games night where we were all heading outside, and it was a really like clear evening, and we're like, oh, why don't we go out and do some astrophotography? Like I didn't have that planned at all. We were just like, let's go out and take some astrophotography. So we all hopped in the car and we all drove out, and we all went to a really nice spot just out of town where we could all take astrophotos. And we were there till like 11 o'clock at night, and we were all like, we're all meant to be up. We were planning to get up in the morning to go for a hike, and we're like, we all better go back and go to bed. But I think that was just evidence that people just love taking photos and just love being around it. And a heap of people hadn't done astrophotography before, but they were just interested to try things. And I think that would have been the space. Had there been more space like that on the other day, we could have just gone in and been like, hey, if you guys are all hanging out, let's just go and practice some other things. Let's go and take an hour to go and edit some of the images we did from this morning all together, and just hang out and edit some photos together. Because I think that was the real upside of having people stay, was that we could all do everything together. We were just hanging out. There was no real expectation that you had to be anywhere else.
I think that's the upside of camp photography, and that premise is that you go camping to relax and just like chill out. So if you mix that with a photography workshop, like the idea of being like, let's go take some photos, let's all just hang out around a coffee table and edit, and like it doesn't, like for me that speaks as like, oh, I don't actually need to be on that whole time. Like I can actually just, you could just relax and edit some photos at a table and like talk about it, or, make a PB&J and like go for a walk, or whereas I think something like Mania, I don't think that exists. I think if you're going to something in the city where you're going there for 3 days, like it has to be on. Like you need to be learning, you need to be classes, like people are expecting something completely different.
And are you having people like actually stay or not for yours?
So the good thing about the Manor, so we're getting the Wedding Mania 2 is being held at the Manor Basket Range, which is the wedding venue that I got married at myself. Probably one of the best portfolio building venues in South Australia, if not Australia. It's fucking amazing. It has accommodation on site. So this year the plan was to host it in somewhere like Queensland, like a resort, but then I just got completely burnt out and I wasn't going to do it because it's so much work. And there's currently there's no financial gain. So that's only your heart of hearts that's doing it. Like we don't make any money. We just got to do it because it's fun and we want to help people. But how long can you keep doing that before you just burn out? Like I put hundreds of hours into planning it and it's great. I felt good. But then like, do you really want to put yourself in for another hundreds of hours of work? For a big gamble of like, this could just fuck up. Yeah. So I got bent out. I wasn't going to do it this year. I had original plans, like when we were speaking up at the cliffs, like we were going to do it in Queensland, hire a big resort, all of this sort of stuff. But I think just keeping it in Adelaide is great because I can lean on all my vendors that I see every weekend, and I can like look after this little industry that we have down here. And if things go wrong, I've got backup plans.
And I think that's the best part about having it small as well. Like you don't need to go this big thing straight off the bat. Like it can be smaller, but then it draws interest in to come again. Like, and a big, as you said, a big part of the feedback from last time was they would have loved to pay way more to have less amount of people there. And I think that's the feedback I got as well, where everyone was happy to have a smaller group. And so being able to keep it small obviously helps with organizing it all, but then hopefully it helps you to continue on and to do an extra one when everyone's happy with how it actually went.
But also making it smaller means it costs more money. Everybody remember that when you're watching this. when it costs more money. It's because it's fucking smaller.
Is it costing more because you're hosting two, or just hosting? If you just did one?
No, it's costing more because if you want less people to be there, then you have to pay a premium because the cost is spread out over less people. And that's where like we could talk into making money with workshops and that sort of stuff, but maybe that's a different podcast.
Maybe it's a completely different
just
podcast
a voice memo
about the ins and outs of the industry that is everywhere else in the world that at the moment I don't know how they charge.
Yeah, where people can just make an entire income of like 150,000 USD a year just hosting a couple of workshops, or you can just like charge 1,500 USD to sit, organize one couple outside and people will pay for it. Whereas in Australia, you give them 3 days, 4 days, you take them on a camping trip, and like people just don't. I don't know. I don't understand why people in Australia don't invest in this sort of stuff. I remember when I was starting out and I was trying to learn and I was trying to get better, I learned everything from Taylor Jackson. And back to like what you said a while ago about how you've got to learn from different people. Like I bought Taylor Jackson's courses, love Taylor. Now it's wild that we're friends now. But like I learned everything from Taylor. I used to sit there and watch his behind the scenes videos before every wedding so that I knew what I was doing. But I also learned a lot from Ben Hartley because he does a lot of like sales and that sort of stuff as well. But if I was to copy everything that they did, it wouldn't have worked for me. That doesn't work. Taylor's very reserved. He's very good at what he does, but he's a very reserved photographer. I'm not. But when I wanted to learn and I wanted to get better, Taylor was the person that helped me a lot, was hosting a workshop in Canada. So I flew to Canada so that I could learn from the person that was teaching me everything, so that I was reinvesting in myself. There's always a tax deduction as well. Because you're investing in yourself. It's classified as education. You can claim it on tax if you're earning any money in your business and you're paying tax and you're not doing it illegally. But you can, it's all an investment in yourself. It all comes back off your tax. Like you can actually spend this money, like even a workshop in like Iceland or something. Like that's all a tax deduction. That's the beauty of this industry, is that so much of what we do and so much of what we love is actually a tax deduction. Like and people need to learn that investing in themselves actually, not only does it help them with learning and you learn education stuff and you learn how to be a better photographer, you learn how to take different types of photos, but it also helps you on the back end because you're bringing down your taxable income. Like you're actually able to spend money on education. You can sign up to Mike's editing course and that is a tax deduction. You can buy my Facebook ads course and that is a tax deduction. You can go to camp photography, which even though it's just a fun weekend where you get to go camping and hang out and do fun stuff, that's still a tax deduction. I'm not a financial advisor, but like it's pretty fucking simple that if you're spending money on educating yourself, not only are you going to learn stuff, but it also helps you on the back end because you're bringing down that taxable income so that you're not paying as much money to the big dogs.
And I think this is why it's so important to sort of build this industry so that us here in Australia, we don't have to fly to Iceland to go to these workshops. Again, like the price of it might seem like it's a lot, but it's not, considering you don't have to fly to the other side of the world because we're the only ones posting anything.
But even then, I paid $1,500 USD to go to this workshop and I flew myself to Canada and I got accommodation and everything.
Yeah. Could you imagine how expensive that would have been to be able to do that undertaking, where you could just head to like Adelaide and go to kind of the same thing
and actually get photos that you can use in your portfolio. And that's the thing. Like I went to Canada, did this big workshop, got to learn stuff and that was sick. Got to meet Sam Hurd and do all this cool stuff. But I don't use any of the photos because they don't match anything in my portfolio because they're not Australian weddings. We don't have mountains here. People are going to be like, oh, where'd you take that photo? Oh, Canada. Like, great. Well, that doesn't help. Anyway, I've got another guy who is from the Hunter Valley and I'm just going to book him. So
people want to know about it. They can go to your Instagram. I'm sure to be all over that.
Yeah, I might use Squarespace to make a new website if it's not
It'll
shit.
be brand new again. You're going to go to that effort to do a whole new website. I'll probably have a link to the wait list to mine if it's not out already in the description. But it should be coming out the week or the 2 weeks after this comes out. So stay tuned for that.
I'll be sneaking red wine into the camping trip.
Yeah, you will. You'll be the only one. So thank you, Joshua. Appreciate it.
No worries, Michael. Love you.
Well, that is the end of today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed listening to this conversation half as much as I enjoyed having it. If you did enjoy today's episode, I would really appreciate it if you did leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. Or if you're watching over on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment down below to let us know that you did enjoy this episode. Also, feel free to share this episode on Instagram and tag me at Mike Jeffrey Photography so I can reshare them on my stories. And also message me and let me know who you would love to hear on an upcoming episode of this podcast. You know, I've always tried my best to be able to have conversations with people who are in the creative space and people that I think would be a good fit on this podcast. And I would love your input as well. In a very privileged position at the moment where, you know, I'm able to reach out to people and have them on my podcast and have really interesting conversations with a whole range of people in the creative space and talk about their creative journey. So if there is anyone you would love to hear from, please let me know and I will do my best to try to get them on the podcast. At this time, I would also like to acknowledge the first creatives of the land on which I am recording today, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of so-called Australia. As we tell stories of today, I just want to reflect on how First Nations people here and across the globe have guided and informed our understanding of the creative journey. But until next week, friends, have a lovely week and I will speak to you all again next Monday. Bye. Editing and post-production on this episode was done by Mossy Heart Media, and music was created by J.W. Payton.